Hands up who's got their mobile phones out. Now, I'm not going to embarrass anybody by saying actually who's typing, because we're all guilty of this, aren't we? One hand on our mobile phone, another ear half listening, sending a WhatsApp, sending an urgent email or text. But this is the world we live in. Now, I grew up at a time when the internet was honestly a science fiction concept. I learned to type on an old-fashioned typewriter with a load of other girls, boys apparently didn't type in those days, and a bottle of Tipp-Ex. But rack forward into 2026, and life is unimaginable for people who grew up like me in the 70s and 80s. We live in a fast-moving world of lightning communication and everything at our fingertips. AI has changed the way we look at the world. It's made us enter into worlds of imagination that we couldn't even begin to think of. But I think most of all, it's trying to smooth out the human imperfection. And this has got to be, in many respects, a good thing. The perfection of surgery, of diagnostics, of communication, of travel. And one day, you might actually be listening to me, looking at me, but I'm sort of dead. But anyway, not yet. But what about the human skills? What about the creativity and the empathy and all the skills that make us very, very individual? What's going to happen to those? These are wonderful, ever-changing flaws within us that make us us. Look, I was a very inquisitive child. I was quite nosy. I spent my time rifling through drawers, looking at handwritten letters and handwritten notes in diaries. And I tried to work out who wrote them, to whom, what did it really mean, and what was going on in the writer's head. And all of this led to my career as a graphologist. And rack forward to this day, many, many years later, and I worked for businesses and I helped to put teams together by looking at the individual characteristics of the handwriting. And in many respects, I'm actually looking at the flaws of the human being, the things that make us very unique. I've trained and I've studied for a long time, but I'm also, at heart, an intuitive being, just like every single person in this room is. With our instant knowledge at the tap of a button, we have communication right there. But is it keeping us safe? How can we feel absolutely safe if we don't look people in the eyes anymore? If we don't look at their body language? If we don't note their smiles and their tears? For all but the poorest people, devices have made our lives so much easier, and it makes us go to the gym more because we have more time, and so our bodies are fitter. But what about our minds? Because critical thinking is being rapidly replaced by information from our phones and laptops. Tasks are becoming automated, but so are our thinking processes and our ability to debate. Debate. Can we still remember that? It was once a skill taught at school or university. It was an intellectual key to empathy and a springboard to understand another person's point of view. But sadly now, debate can so easily be interpreted as judgment, and judgment is apparently all wrong. But we all make judgments every single day, some small and insignificant, what shirt shall I wear? Or maybe a little bit more important, who shall I marry? Or who can I really trust? To call out or cancel judgment is, of course, incredibly hypocritical, but it also leads us to ignore our ability to see another person's point of view and to empathize. And everything is being replaced with black or white, right or wrong. And we're seeing this on social media, but also on the political world stage. Now, can we blame the modern digital age and digital input on our loss of capacity to pause, reflect, empathize, and perhaps above all else, to be kind? We barely need to teach children how to use their mobile phones because it's inherent in them from the pushchair. But we are going to have to teach them other skills that in the old days actually were just part of our DNA. I'd also like to talk about a silent killer in the West, and that's loneliness. Now, the automation of tasks, I'm afraid, certainly where I come from, has got rid of the bank teller, the greengrocer, the supermarket checkout, and just about every face-to-face doctor appointment you can ever imagine. And also the semi-stranger that for millions of people stand for human interaction and familiarity in an ever-increasing isolated world. We may think we are a global village digitally, but domestically, never has there been so many people living alone. Just a how are you today can make the difference between a good today or a bad today. Now, in my job, AI may very well be able to differentiate between a forged and a genuine signature. But as yet, I hope, it cannot detect emotions. And as for the creative professions, we can now all take a wonderful photograph. We can actually write a book or a journal, probably in about 5 minutes. We can try our hand at digital art. But surely it's essential to celebrate and encourage the creative brain, not just the creative output. Facts are important, but so are prediction and inspiration. Now, despite all of this, I remain incredibly optimistic and excited for the future. We can preserve creativity and critical thinking. We're never going to get rid of the email or its successor, the text, the meme, but we can shape generations and education to come to not only preserve, but to create new way of thinking and communicating. But how can we do this? Schools must carry on teaching art and music and drama. But iPhones should be kept to their relevance, especially with children. Debating must be part of the school curriculum. Freedom of thought and ideas must be encouraged and never confused with bullying or segregation or unkindness. There's no room in society for these attributes. But we need the ability to think and feel and put our ideas across in an intelligent way. Now, you're going to say, she would say that, wouldn't she? But please, let's make sure that our children know how to write with a pen and paper, and that they use this skill every single day in some form or other. Handwriting creates a flow of visual and tactile feedback to the writer and makes us think before we write, improves our memory and learning. It's well known that students who write and not just type have much better recall, better memory, and better natural encoding. Let's encourage our children to write an old-fashioned letter to their relatives and friends. Both the writing and receiving of handwritten letters have lasting effects on our emotions. Writing encourages deep thought and empathy, and receiving makes the recipient feel special and wanted, and as a byproduct, creates a keepsake And I do feel it's probably more secure than most forms of communication. Now, this may be controversial, but I strongly believe that not all jobs need the enormous amount of emails that clog the inboxes. Digital communication needs to be relevant, not cheapened. If we limit unnecessary communication, we can make it a considered, not a throwaway, and waste less time. Our time is precious, so please send less emails, receive less emails, get more done. Now, humans are not machines. Character is key. In the workplace, we need to determine character, not just a role in order to build a team. And that's obviously a big part of my job. For companies to work efficiently, they need a mixture of personalities and communication styles. Is this judgment? Yes, but it's astute judgment, and it's a judgment that we need to encourage. We need team players, we need all-rounders, but there is plenty of room for the oddball, the character, the eccentric. We need to encourage process over perfection. So let's engage in the creative journey within all of us rather than fixating on the outcome. Serious art is born out of serious play. Now, the American writer Julia Cameron believes that everybody is creative and that the human attributes of discipline and creative routine can encourage the higher consciousness. And this is why a younger generation, for me, I'm very glad to say, is journaling. Does anybody journal here? One lone hand in the background there. Perhaps you're all too old, dare I say it. But this is marvelous for me. So 10 years ago, I was far more worried that people weren't writing anymore, and now I'm really not. Dr. Sanjeev Nichani, who is a consultant pediatrician, is very worried about our children and about their excessive screen time. It causes anxiety, attention disorders, withdrawal, and is effectively changing their brains. It's sad that children and adults hardly have any hobbies anymore. Academic performance in the West is dropping, and there's a universal lack of focus, insomnia, and an increasing reliance on ADHD drugs. Even more worrying is that tablets are often given to children to calm them. This completely goes against the science and indeed the brain scans of children who are overstimulated by screen time, but at the expense of their creativity, interpersonal skills, and happiness. Now let's all be excited about the future and excited about our own creative skills, because I strongly believe that my skill is one that will become even more vital as time goes on. And we need to understand our individuality, to recognize it in others, and not to suppress it. Let's take the time, not just screen time, to self-nurture our individual characters. And I'd like to make a final note on that very 21st century of professions, the influencer. Let's all be influencers and look to the future with both a digital and analog sense of optimism. And if anybody would like to have their handwriting analysed, you know where to find them.
Brilliant. Take a seat for me, Emma. How does writing on paper and the effort it takes to write things affect cognitive abilities at an older age, and also affects the way that your personality develops? Because if you're reading into my handwriting to understand a little bit more of me, if I'm not writing, how does it work? Is it a chicken and egg kind of thing?
Well, when somebody writes, they take more time
with everything they do. I mean, are you worried that I wouldn't be able to read writing because people don't do it anymore? Or
well, I'm concerned how it would affect, if I don't write as much, what does it say about the way my personality would be evolving and my cognitive abilities? And is it linked to dementia, for example? All of these things.
Crikey, we've gone straight in there. I think that handwriting is obviously, this is my profession, and I think anything that slows the brain down and makes us think carefully and to think about other people is only a good thing. I don't know about the science as to whether it would cause dementia if we don't handwrite. I mean, that would be obviously a massive PR boost to me, but I'm not sure that that's actually the case. But certainly dementia and a lot of illnesses can be slowed down if we actually take time to empathize and to be with people. We're sociable human beings. And even if we live on our own, that shouldn't stop us from communicating in a very human way. And I do feel that just sending texts and answering a WhatsApp or whatever, and listen, I'm guilty of this as anybody, but it's such a throwaway thing, and I feel that it's taking away what makes us intuitive beings and empathetic.
But I mean, at the end of the day, it's really hard. If I want to send you a message, I'm not going to send a pigeon with a little note. I'm going to have to...
Well, you would have done in the old days.
You see,
that's the other thing. What I'd like to say is, are we actually any more productive now in 2026 than we were in, say, 1986? I'm not sure that we are. And I don't think that socially we are more adept. I think that's actually gone downhill.
Let's talk about the state of the world right now, because I want to talk about what's going on. I mean, it's quite a big subject. So it's such a big subject. I'm not going to stick on one particular story, but I want to talk about, because you're analyzing leaders around the world and their handwriting and their signature in particular. Are you surprised by the decisions we're seeing being taken relative to the personalities that are right at the top? The confrontations that we're seeing.
No one's listening to this, are they? I can just the problem is that anything that happens now, anything that anybody does, anything that anybody says, because of social media, is immediate. There's not going to be somebody on horseback coming around telling each village what's going on. So that's a problem. But this is, I'm probably going to offend at least 50% of the audience here, but I think there is a male problem here. I think we need more female leaders. I think that we deal with empathy in a different way, and I think we need to see more of that. So if you say, am I surprised? I'm disappointed. That's awful, isn't it? It's worse than anything to say. Yeah, I'm disappointed, but maybe not surprised. Humans are human, and, we give in to temptation and things. But I do think there is room for more female leaders because we compromise and we multitask and we empathize.
And you'll be able to see that, and you'll be able to make that judgment based on, I'm sorry, men.
Sorry, no offense.
So you're able to make that judgment because you've analyzed so many different people's handwriting. And the traits that you see in male handwriting, men's handwriting, differ dramatically from women.
Well, okay. Now, there are three things that I can't tell from handwriting. I can't tell if somebody's male or female. I can't tell their age. And I can't tell how old they are. Because everybody has both male and female qualities. But there is an overriding male ego. Now, look, that's not all bad, obviously. Struggling to think of it. But yes, but I cannot be certain when I look at a writing if somebody's a man or a woman. I mean, I'm quite a masculine man. A woman. Jeez. My family be in hysterics now. I'm quite... Please edit that out. I am quite a masculine woman because I think I'm... God, I'm never going to live this down now.
Okay, question. Who wants to get their handwriting analyzed? Because when Emma asked me to send a few photographs of my handwriting, I was so nervous. I'm like, what is she going to tell me? Of course I was nervous. I was looking for the best sections of my notebook and I couldn't find it.
She also got me to look at her husband's, I just have to say.
I know, that was but I mean, apart from your profession, being a graphologist, and you're really pushing for people to start really focusing more on writing, and even journaling, by the way. And it's true, schools are encouraging kids to journal right now. Everyone should be focused on that. Do you see AI as a threat and a risk to the human factor? We're worried about what it's going to do to jobs, and we're saying, well, the jobs that really require the human elements are safe. But you're saying that we're degrading what makes us human because we're not writing enough and we're not engaged in the things that makes us human.
I was speaking to somebody this morning, actually, and I think this is the very beginning of AI, isn't it? I think we don't really know how far it's going to go. And I think humans have to decide how much of their human personality they are prepared to exchange and to give up for AI. And I think we have to be very careful as to what the balance of power is there, whether it's human or whether it's AI. I don't particularly feel threatened with my job. I think I'm quite lucky because I think actually human character is going to become more important to try and find out. But some jobs obviously are going to go to the wall.